All right, happy Mother's Day, everybody. It's About the Truth with Dr. Z, a show that seeks truth in every discussion. We want to say shout out to all the mothers, both living and passed on. I grew up with the tradition of wearing a white carnation if your mother had passed on, and a red carnation if your mother was still living. I think that's one of our traditions we need to keep. We need to revive.
I think you're right, Doctor.
It's fun. It's respectful. You know, and it honors. It speaks for itself. Mm-hmm. It doesn't say whether your mother behaved badly or whether or not your mother behaved in an exemplary way. It just speaks to their existence. I think a lot of times
important.
It is important because a lot of times mothers are judged based on their motherhood, and some are like rightfully judged. I mean, you know, they didn't do a great job and caused a lot of trauma in a person's life. But there's a bottom line truth when it comes to mothers. That one act that woman does by pushing a life out of her body. I want you to sit in that for a minute, because not just anybody can do that.
And you know what else is important, you know, about the flowers that you mentioned? Some of those traditions are no longer passed down to our younger people. You could be in a conversation with older adults, millenniums, X-gens, or whatever, and just look at the faces of those and be like, wait, what?
Right, and because it passes on a value.
Right, exactly. And that's something that we need to continue to pass on to generations under us so that they can understand
the wisdom of the value.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
and how it preserves the community.
Yes.
How it preserves the continuity and the health of the community. It really does, because we're so busy critiquing people. You know, it's really much of a blame game now. And we bypass the phenomenon that a person actually risked their life to give you life.
Right.
So many women die giving birth, but they're not given the credit for going through the trauma of childbirth. And then, and so we know right now, what's on the table from the Supreme Court is the decision to overturn Roe versus Wade. Now, somebody asked me, Dr. Z, are you pro-choice, pro-life? And I said, I am pro-choice, but that doesn't make me anti-pro-life. It's between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
You know, because as a woman, I have the right to say what happens to my body.
Or you should have anyway.
Yeah. I mean, fundamentally, I got the right to say what happens to my body. But do I have the right to say what happens to my body in terms of God? And so I'm between a rock and a hard place. So I stay right there between a rock and a hard place, because unless it's me that has to make that decision, I don't feel like I have the right to make that decision. You know, it's a decision that's personal.
Yes.
I remember when my daughter got pregnant with Kennedy out of wedlock. I mean, hey, calm down. It's not news. Okay. In fact, we found a way to soften the blow of that by calling it baby daddies. Okay. When she got pregnant with Kennedy and called me, I was just leaving seminary. I remember asking her the question, woman to woman. Now, she's calling her mom, but I asked her woman to woman, what are you going to do? I let my daughter know, this is your decision. I'm not going to give you input. Some of these decisions you make alone. I decided that I would step back and be autonomous in it, because one thing about it, I wasn't there when it was made. I wasn't there to say, hey, y'all, stop that. You know, I had no part of it. So this is the fruit of that act. So as a woman, you did that act. As a woman, you make a decision what comes out of that act. Whether it's an STD, an unwanted pregnancy, or a broken heart, or a combo of the three, whatever. But as you make a woman decision, you deal with woman consequences, right? And so, I was ready to figure out what she was going to do, and she said, "Oh no, it's not a question." I was like, "Okay, I hope we have twins," because
Oh, let's compound this situation.
I want to be a grandmother. I'm a grandmother. I'm Kennedy's grandmother. I'm Kayla's grandmother. I'm very proud of that. So happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Grandmother's Day. I mean, I took them shopping yesterday. Kenny and Kayla shopping, and we were in the mall. We had this amazing time. And I was sitting there in the mall thinking, thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Thank you. Let me live to experience these wonderful days as a grandmother, not just a mother, but as a grandmother as well.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lord. I appreciate God for letting me have the experience of being a hands-on grandmother. I walked through the mall with Kenny with my arm around her shoulder and her arm around my waist. Lord have mercy. It don't get sweeter than that. And she's 17 and let me do it. Just sweet moments in life. And so some people, this leads me to talk about just giving honor to your mother for her platform.
Okay.
Not for a person, not for her behavior, for her platform. And it's a God-given platform.
Exactly.
It's a God-given platform. Because one thing about it, you can't not be that child's mother. I don't care how bad that child acts or how good that child acts, you can't not be your child's mother. They get one. Even in my circumstance where my daughter is adopted. We had this amazing conversation early this morning about this. I always told my daughter she was adopted. I decided to trust the truth. Okay, there's some people who feel like they have to protect people from the truth. I see the truth as my friend. I think the truth can handle it. I think the truth can handle its own business. So I tell the truth. And when my daughter's birth mother was 14, out of state. I mean, I didn't know if I was having a girl or a boy. It was an interstate adoption. And it was done through ministry. It was done with Andre and Sandra Crouch. I mean, it's an amazing story. And so when the Lord blessed me and let me know we were having a girl, I already knew what her name was. Because before I even knew I was going to be an adopted mother, I had always said, if I have a daughter, her name is Sarah Inez, which is my mother's name. And you all know anything about Dr. Z, you know how much I adore and cherish my beloved mother who died when I was only 19. Okay. So we were tighter than skin. Okay. My mother was my best friend. My mother was my road dog. My mother was my BFF. So when I lost my mother, I lost my breath. I lost breath, and I had to learn to live without that level of breathing. Okay, I had to learn it because it was God's will.
Exactly.
That was God's will.
Yeah.
Now this is the God that expects me to serve Him. Yeah. That God crossed me. He took my mama. He took my mother. When I thought I needed her most. One of my dearest friends, Cecilia Bennett. I'll call her Minister Cecilia Bennett. She was in my life when that happened because we've been together like teenagers, Prayer Assembly Church of God in Christ, on Avalon and El Segundo.
The barbecue church.
The barbecue church. Yeah, she's the minister of music and organist, there, and she used to date my brother. And so that's how Cecilia came into my life. And so we kicked my brother to the curb and we kept Cecilia. Okay? So Cecilia, well, at least I did. And so the Cecilia became like just such a sister. Such a sister. And she is to this day. She's just a sister. And so she told me, she called me by my family endearment name. She said, Cookie, when your mother died, you were left in a nest like baby birds waiting for the mother to come back because they're hungry. And the analogy fit, and I was like, oh, girl, thank you. I mean, that was how I felt. Her absence was just devastating. I remember as a 19-year-old girl standing we had this little pond in our backyard next to the pool. And I remember when my mother died, and I was standing next to the pond, and I was trying to figure out if I committed suicide, what could happen to me.
Wow.
19 years old, and just full of grief and sorrow and devastation, and just couldn't fix it. So I figured I'd exit it. I'd leave it. And I remember, because that was back then where preachers was telling you was going to hell. Now, you do this wrong, you going to hell. And you do that wrong, you going to hell. And hell was a real place, and hell was a real threat. And hell's not such a threat anymore now. But back then, hell was a real hell. We got hell scared out of us. So I was reasoning by that pond. I think, well, man, my mother's gone to heaven, and if I take my life, I'll go to hell. So I better not do it.
Yeah.
And nobody was around, and nobody heard my thoughts. It was me and God at that point, and I was seriously considering it. So I can't imagine what some of the young people now are going through without that teaching and without something to anchor them in their grave, disappointing moments and circumstances in life. You got to have something to anchor you. You have to have something to to invest your sensibilities in, and so, because life can be so devastating. I was thinking earlier today about what we're going to talk about today. And we've been talking about, first of all, prayer and prophecy as a path in 2022, following the mindset of prayer and the mindset and the guidance of prophecy, and using prayer and prophecy as a path to get through 2022, right? And I was thinking, so we went from that to being prayer warriors.
Yes.
Okay, and so we're still talking about the prayer warrior and what a prayer warrior and the dynamics of being a prayer warrior. Okay, and Charlotte, it came to me so clear. One of the main weapons and the most effective weapons that the enemy uses against a prayer warrior is self-pity. It's so effective. I'm going to tell you why it's so effective. Because it is shrouded in grief. Okay, so grief is something that happens as a season in your life. There's sometimes you can get grieved about something other than a person dying.
Correct.
You can grieve the loss of a job. You can grieve the loss of a relationship. And now we say boy bye. But there's grief in boy bye. Grief is something that is common to the human experience. But what does it look like when you're a prayer warrior and something grievous happens in life? We could say your mother was an alcoholic. Your mother was a rageaholic. Okay? Your mother was malignantly selfish. Your mother was a bully. A bully. Ain't nothing worse than having a bully mother. Mothers are looked to or expected to behave in the opposite
Yeah.
of that behavior. How can somebody who actually carried me in her body and ushered me into the world treat me in a way that's less than safe, when as long as I was in your womb, I was safe? How could you? There's only one person who gets this credit. And how could you treat me in my most vulnerable and innocent state? Treat me less than what God did. God kept me in your womb. It was me, you, and God in that sack of water. And God was working a miracle. He was forming me, Psalm 139. He was forming me. He formed my hands and my eyes and my eyebrows and my nail beds and the palms of my hand. And he formed me. And he formed me with gifts and callings. I came here whole. I came here equipped. I came ready. I came here crying out, using my voice. Crying out. I used my voice. Crying out. And it was your responsibility to maintain that wholeness. Now, I'm putting it where it's at right now for mothers. But then you got a mother who takes the baby and then imposes her broken life.
Okay. That's it. Yeah.
On an innocent baby that can't tell anybody what's happening. Lord have mercy. In the middle of that, God, my God, why? God, my God, why? Because you think some people don't need to have babies. You really do think that some people have no business having a baby. Well, you got to take that up with God because He gave it to him. You can't conceive without God's help. That's why Eve, when she had Cain and Abel, she said, "I got a child from the Lord." You know, God gave me a child. So God did that. God did that. God did that. Adam, you poked me more than one time, but this time, God got involved and put a human in my womb. I mean, it's just the mystery and the sacredness of how that happens. And so how could you not understand and handle the sacredness of that with responsibility and celebration? But for some women, having another child is nothing but another burden. I think about the women in Africa, they're standing there in the media with the baby with swollen bellies because it's not enough to eat, but you got like a baby a year. Well, that's common sense. How did that happen? Well, what do you think? I mean, really, sex is the most fun you can have free. You could just do it. But it has these grave consequences to it. And so it's a mystery. It's a mystery why God lets some people come to the earth and some souls come to the earth and some souls not. That's a mystery. That's a mystery. Okay, but here's the thing. Here's the thing. Where's the child in all of this? Where's the child in all of this? Because psychologists will take you back to your earliest memory. Because some people's memories in their childhood are so traumatic that the brain blocks it out. They can only go to a certain point in their memories. But it amazes me not so much sometimes how much trauma a child can go through. What amazes me is how resilient children are when the enemy comes for that child in their infancy, in their childhood, without the child even understanding what's going on. For example, Moses, the warrior, Moses in a basket, Moses fighting for his life without fighting for his life. Moses with this great calling on his life. And then God makes Pharaoh's daughter, the very man who said kill all the babies, raise Moses. The very baby he was supposed to kill, he had to pay for and raise. And that's the baby that came up and told Pharaoh, let my people go. I mean, so God doesn't abandon the situation. God has purpose in the situation. Jesus, Mary and Joseph had to hide Jesus in Egypt for 2 years because Herod tried to do what Pharaoh tried to do. Think about it. Herod tried to get Jesus killed. All the boys 2 years and younger had to die. Jesus' first 2 years was spent in Egypt, not in Israel. So after a while they came back. So God has a way of preserving and putting his hand on those he calls. David, who is born in the privileged group, a Jewish male, is not considered a son by Jesse. And Jesse, you're dogging the king. He's the king. He's the king. He's not your king, but he's God's king. So some of us have hard callings, strong callings on our life. Now I want to get back to, I know exactly what I'm saying, because I want to get back to the how the enemy uses self-pity. But I'm setting this up so you understand and you see along your journey how the attacks come, right? Sometimes they come through your mother, sometimes they come through your family system, sometimes they come through the school, sometimes it comes from being black in America, okay? They come, sometimes they're multi-layered, sometimes they come in the church. Ooh, okay, I wrote a book about it. 7 reasons why you should go to church, because people need a reason now, right? Sometimes the pastor is the father of the bastard that's born in the congregation between the pastor and the member. Yeah. There's multiple stories on that, okay? Because they did that human thing. And then the pastor abandons the member and the bastard because he can't afford to abandon the ministry and his family. One versus the other. And God will turn around and use the bastard as the greater person. Now, is the bastard man, I would call him a boy. In fact, this happened with T.D. Jakes and one of his proteges. Not too long ago, I read the story. Now, let's talk about this self-pity, because basically what I set up to talk about here is the warrior, the calling. We can use a biblical model of David, and we can use this person who's born to the pastor out of wedlock. Okay, let's look at both of them. 2 guys, and the mother never told the young man who his father was. He got to be like 12 and said, who is my father? He came to his mother and said, who is my father? And his mother set him down, looked him in his face and said, Pastor so-and-so is your father. I mean, straight up gangster. Told him. And he had been the pastor's adjutant. He had been serving the pastor like as a special aid. He's serving his daddy and didn't even know it. That's what people do, man. That's too cold. Ain't that too? That's cold. That's cold right there. What do you think about keeping family secrets like that? Do they help or do they hurt more?
I think it hurts more to keep the secret.
Why?
Well, because you you put those family members in a bad situation when you don't come out and tell the truth.
But what if you told the truth on the family secret? Wouldn't it tore up the church or tore up the family or something like that?
You know what? It's like a double-edged sword. It's going to hurt either way. It's going to have an effect either way. Sometimes it's going to be positive. Most times, first of all, it's going to be painful. The exposure is going to be painful simply because so many people sought to hide it. They went through great lengths to hide it, to hide the truth, to make it look like
that the pastor is your father. I knew you and your mama was getting together. I mean, because it's almost like the R. Kelly situation. The R. Kelly situation could not happen of all those girls who were victimized without a village of cooperation.
Yeah. To hide the truth. Let it not be exposed. Make sure they went through great lengths to make sure it was not exposed.
What was at stake?
Basically, I think what they thought was at stake was his reputation. But what happened when the truth came out?
But wait a minute. And don't you think in the R. Kelly thing, Rashid, don't you think in the R. Kelly thing that more was at stake than just his reputation? Because I wanted to hear from a man on this.
Okay.
I mean, with the R. Kelly situation, things that were going on within his family, things that were done to him.
Now I'm talking about what he did to those girls.
Oh no, that should not have been a secret, because if it was a kept secret and it was bottled up, he would still be getting away with it, meaning it would do more damage to the girls than it would be to his reputation.
You know what I
more
think?
Psychological damage to them.
I think they could care less about his reputation. I think they could care less about psychological damage. I think they were protecting their paychecks.
Yeah.
Oh, that too.
That's what I really do think. I think their
That was the most
motivation
important
was
thing to
fame and
protect.
fortune. Yeah,
Okay.
that if I tell this, he's going to jail and I'm out of a job. Think of the level of celebrity.
Okay.
The
Yeah.
level of celebrity.
Yeah, definitely. In fact, definitely money. Could definitely be the definitive factor when it came to their silence. When it came to this is R. Kelly. He's paying my bills,
And
he's making sure my family is fed.
And R. Kelly is R. Kelly. It's the
High Piper of R&B.
Yeah, and it's the image, it's his gift. Nobody can say this man is not super gifted. I mean, the sound of his voice and the writing and the this and the that. Now we know now that through his brother's testimonies that what was done to him, and now he's doing to others.
People, yeah.
Right. So he took on the pathology of the people, and basically it was his sister. There you go. Who's keeping that secret? Who kept the secret from the family? You know, does it help to keep the secrets?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't help anybody. It may seem like it in the short term, but once that secret is exposed, then you're gonna have a whole lot of. It's like it has a domino effect. It doesn't affect just one person or two people. It goes back to affect a lot of people, because then the person who was done the harm, who the information was kept from, is now upset when they find out, oh, but you knew this too and you did nothing.
They feel
you
betrayed.
Said nothing. Yes.
They feel betrayed.
Yeah.
But this is the thing, like, if I'm still talking about how the enemy uses self-pity.
Mm-hmm.
Right, because now this makes my point. Now I'm justified in my self-pity because you kept the secret and you knew the secret and all y'all. How could you even look at me?
Mm-hmm.
You were deceiving me the whole time. Because this is a trust issue. We're talking about trust. Now, once the Bible talks about trust being harder to restore than to win a whole city, it's very difficult once you break trust
It is.
to get it back.
It
And,
is.
and people say it never quite goes back where it was, you know.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, but in the name of trust, people keep the secrets. Like, what's the movie? I don't know. Remember the name of the movie where the mother's sister raised the girl that got married, and with Loretta Devine being the groom's mother, and she told the secret that the girl was adopted on her wedding day, or right at, she had the mother-son syndrome. You can't have my baby. And you know nobody's good enough for my son. And finally the son meets his bride, and they're going to get married, and Loretta Devine overheard the secret between the two sisters arguing, because the bride's mother was raised to believe was her aunt, but her aunt was actually
her mother.
Her aunt was actually her mother, and her mother was actually her aunt. Yeah. Because the mother had gone to Paris, had a fling, came back pregnant. So a lot of times decisions are made based on what's happening in the moment and at that time. We try to have judgment, what's best for the child, what's best. But somehow children seem to always gravitate back to in the womb. They go back to that mother and father platform. They're wired for the mother and father platform. No, you're not my father, you're not my mother. How many boys say, you ain't my daddy? So they automatically give my daddy a certain respect and a certain rope, credibility. If you're my father, then I'll acquiesce. I'll surrender. But if you're not my father, I'm not giving you that. We feel entitled. We feel entitled as children. We feel entitled to our parents because we are. We're entitled to our parents. Even when it's an adopted parent. Now, I'm telling you what I know, not what I think, because I raised an adopted daughter, and I raised my daughter with open communication. So we talk about these subjects. We have the best conversations. We're able to objectify. Because one thing I did as an adopted mother, I believed that the truth was my friend. And I believed that if I have to protect my daughter from somebody else's vicious mouth. And guess what happened?
Yeah.
I'm going to tell y'all what happened, okay? Now, y'all know Dr.Zee, and you know Dr.Zee's going to tell you the truth. One of her cousins. Now, I should put him on blast. I really should. Y'all pray for me right now. Pray harder. Because that name getting ready to roll off my tongue right now. I got to be sure my motives are right. So I'm not going to tell it yet, because I don't know if my motive is right now. Because that would be a nice get back. So if it's a get back, I shouldn't say it.
Right.
Okay. But one of her cousins devastated her. I mean, devastated my daughter when they were like 12. Because her other cousins, see, I got the coolest brothers and sisters on the planet. Let me tell you about my brothers and sisters. We may not be perfect. We're not. But some things we get right. And when it comes to our children, which I had 8 brothers and 2 sisters. Well, 2.5. Okay. Now, it's complicated. So this is the thing. This is the thing. We raise, and even my half-sister, we raise our children as everybody's children. So Lonnie Jr. will get a whooping from Auntie Cookie like Sarah will get a whooping from Mama. I mean, and Lonnie stepped back and said, well, that's your auntie. You got to score. You got to fix that with her. We did all our kids like that. We never, not one of us would say, "Did you touch my son? Did you touch?" No, 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 no. What did you do that your uncle or your aunt had to get on you, get in you, because you getting it again? We really did that from the heart. So when my brothers and sisters were so excited for me taking on this heavenly assignment, it was like I gave birth. It was like I gave birth. I would remember being at the airport when my daughter was put in my arms for the first time, and I was so like uptight and stressed because of bureaucracy, I had to wait like a month or 2 months to get her, because I was supposed to get her days after, but because of bureaucracy and paperwork, I had to wait. So every day waiting was excruciating. So by the day that I got my baby, it was like giving birth in an airport. And I had these back spasms they were so bad, I couldn't hold the baby. They put the baby in my arms, and I was so broken and crying and so just grateful. Man, you talking about a moment. And here comes my sister Frances. Oh, wow, she's supervisor here, and she's all these titles now. But I'm telling you, at that moment, she was just my sister. My sister was so in the flow of what I was doing in my life. She came and took that baby from me and held that baby like it was her baby. Oh, man, let me tell you, my siblings treat my daughter like I gave birth to her in Kaiser Hospital. To this day, this moment, some of her cousins, shame on you. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna leave it alone. Charlotte, because I'm provoked. Shame on you. But you didn't get that mess from your parents. Okay, you didn't. You see, you have to protect the value. You have to, because it's not, the value is there to this day. But if the value is not enforced, sometimes it's passed on and sometimes it has to be enforced. Sometimes you got to tell your kid, "Oh, no, you don't talk to your uncle like that.
Right.
You don't talk to your aunt like that. Oh no, that's your grandmother. Oh, I don't think so." Sometimes the grandmother say, hold on, you talking to my child.
Yes.
Hold on. You don't talk to my child like that. That she might be your mother, but she's always going to be my child.
Exactly.
Back it all the way up. Sometimes you have to get aggressive to hold on to the value and teach the value and pass on the value and correct, so the child doesn't go in life uncorrected and with a skewed value.
Exactly.
And so when it came to my daughter, she had this moment of devastation, and just from my daughter sharing it with me, I wasn't there. So she wasn't under the protection of her parents, see, because they were at a church convention in San Diego, and I let my daughter go with my sister freely, because if my daughter was with my sister, my daughter was with me. So in that moment, they did like our family dynamics do. All you kids go do this, do that. The kids are with the kids, because all kids are raised as one, right? So this is when it happened amongst the kids. So the kids come back going, woo, what? And then one of the cousins was just devastated, like he didn't know she was adopted. But it wasn't a secret. It wasn't a secret, because my daughter had been told when she was 2, when she was 5, when she was 8, and then she came aware of what I was saying when she was 9, and then at 11 she came back and talked to me about it. So she had a foundation already of who she was. She already had the foundation. Her cousins didn't know that.
Okay.
What would have happened if I had not ever told my daughter the truth?
I can't speak to that, but can speak to that because I recall a situation when we were state youth and young adult choir under Tony McGill.
Yeah.
And one of our choir members, and if I called her name, you would know, she did not know. Her parents did not share that with her.
She was adopted?
Yes.
Okay.
And we were away at a convention, or we were in Sacramento singing, something like that. And there was a heated conversation.
Uh-oh.
And so to get back at her, one of the choir members told her.
Oh, wow.
And she was devastated. She was devastated.
That's just uncalled for.
Yeah. But it was the
the spirit in which it was.
Exactly. It was
because that's what that cousin did to my daughter.
Like, I'm going to use that against you to hurt you.
Right.
Because I don't know any other way to hurt you. So if I tell you this that you don't know, it will hurt. And it devastated her.
Well, in my daughter's case, she was so young, she didn't know to reject that rejection.
Yeah.
You know, because she could have told him, well,
I
might be adopted, but I'm more accepted than you are, and you got the blood. Okay? And that ain't nothing but the truth. I'm so close to calling his name, but I'm not going to do it. So it's because, you know, it doesn't help.
Right.
To go in the wrong spirit and speak in a vengeful spirit.
Right.
We are called to give life, not take life.
Yeah.
And I don't care how justified I feel or anybody else feels in an injustice and an offense. You don't yield to that temptation. You don't, because yielding is sin. The scripture says yielding is sin. Isn't that a song too? Yield not to temptation, for yielding is sin. Yeah, that's a hymn. So it's teaching us that the wages of sin produces death. And Jesus said, but I come you might have life. So if I speak words of life, it's going to produce life and healing. We go right back to James 5:16. Confess your faults one to another and pray for one another that you might be healed. Being healed is the goal. So is keeping the family secrets, does that produce healing?
It produces more devastation than anything else. I mean, and we see it in real life. We see it even on the movie screen, as you were saying.
Yeah, we see it in movies.
You see what I'm saying? And then, even when that secret is kept, as long as it's kept, when it is exposed, there are so many people that are devastatingly affected by that, whether they kept it, whether they were the ones that kept it, they were the ones that knew, didn't say anything, or the person that it was about. It affects a lot of people in a bad way,
You know, and I'm thinking about this victimization thing because so many people right now, I was going to go into this idea of grief and self-pity. Grief and self-pity, because that's why I said, now I'm justified. But I think I answered my own question, because although I'm justified in my rage, you hurt your cousin by being a mean-spirited so-and-so, and you devastated her because you're mean, you're being mean, and now as her mother, I'm gonna get you. You know, I'm gonna check you. I'm not just gonna discipline you. I'm gonna get you back. Well, I think that's the difference. That's the difference, is the motive and the intention. Like when you're grieved, let's say you're grieved your mother died. Of course you grieved your mother died. You lost your beloved mother. What's the difference between self-pity and grief? Self-pity and grief. I think it's a great question because so many people are stuck in grief stuck in grief. And I don't think that grief is something that is designed by God for you to be stuck in.
No.
Because, okay, let's use the scripture, Ecclesiastes, that says there's a time and season.
For everything.
That means that grief has a season.
Yeah.
That grief is supposed to be over.
A time to laugh and a time to cry. A time.
It has a limit.
Yes.
It has a time limit to it, right?
Yeah.
So if you're stuck in it, you're over time. So what makes you stuck in grief?
I'm going to say it's all a choice.
What are you choosing?
You're choosing to stay stuck. You're choosing to stay in grief because you know that you can pray and ask God to help you through that God will send people that will help you through that period. But then you have to be the one with the final decision to say, it's time for me to move past this. God, how can I move past this? Well, I say that because when I grieved about my brother,
Okay.
when my brother died, my brother and I were very close.
Right.
It came to the point where I had to accept his dying, and God gave me 9 months with him before he passed to get it together.
God will do that.
Yes, and
Yeah.
God did that. Now, knowing what I knew, I had the option to say, no, I'm going to stay here and continue to grieve about the fact that my brother died from a terminal illness and he's no longer here. You didn't choose to heal him. Or I'm going to say, okay, God, thank you for the time that you gave me with him to get it together before you took him away. So that's what I mean when I say you have a choice to either stay there or you can move on. You don't have to lose the feeling that I had for my brother. I still miss my brother, but I'm not stuck in grieving where it handicaps me and I can't move forward with life. Like we know personally, you and I know of someone who literally died from grieving over their son being killed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
stuck
they
in
got
grief.
stuck. Yeah.
And see, I have to say that the being stuck signifies that there's a devil present.
Okay.
Because the scripture says the wages of sin, it has to be, and I don't mean sin in a way of like, you judging and committing a sin.
Yeah.
But I'm saying the spirit of something and what it produces. So if it produces death and more death, it's sinful or against God's life formula. Put it like that.
Okay.
Because somebody's listening to this and thinking, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know my situation. I don't. You're absolutely right, and I respect my ignorance. I'm trying to say to you that God did not take your mother and take your loved one for you to live the rest of your life in grief.
Right.
That's
Amen.
all I'm trying to say. And I'm saying it in a heart of love. I'm not saying it in judgment. I'm not saying it in ignorance from my lack of understanding of your situation. I'm not saying that you didn't lose because your mother died. You had more losses, like financial losses, like other relationship losses, like the loss of your family. Maybe she was the glue, and so since she's gone, now y'all can't get together because you never really worked on the other relationships before she died. We were relating to each other through her. Yeah. I mean, there are all different scenarios. What I'm trying to give you is a bottom line. I'm trying to give you a bottom line. And I'm trying to give you a bottom line of hope. I'm trying to show you there is hope. Okay, so what can I say in the next 4 or 5 minutes that will usher in hope? There's somebody wrote a song. Now listen, I understand you got to pray to the person you're mad at. That's number one. Okay? You got to without faith without works is dead. You got to at least extend your faith to a conversation. If you cry out to God and say, I am so mad at you for you taking my mother. Conversation started. Theologically correct. Out of the depths of my soul, I cried. The Psalms are there for a reason. They're trying to tell us that we can tell God anything. He can handle your rage. He can handle your anger. He can handle your disappointment. He's going to answer you. But I'm saying that a closed mouth won't get fed. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say you need to go and just let the anger out and speak and tell God, I'm stuck and I'm angry with you. And if you want to know why, here it is. You know, at least, instead of repressing it all, pushing it back down and living in self-pity, because that's where it is. The self-pity gets embedded in you because you say, look, I'm justified how I feel because. And that to me is one of the main tools that the devil uses with people to keep them from living their best life. Give you justified self-pity. And you are a warrior, okay? Don't you dare back up from your warriorship. You are a warrior. You just a wounded warrior. You know, you just a warrior that took a hit.
Right.
You hit a landmine, you know, and it blew up on you, and you need help. You need help. But how can you get help pushing everybody away?
Right.
God sends the help. He sends the help. Whether you recognize it or not, God sends the help. Well, you don't know my mother was a bully, and I was glad she's dead. Well, I'm glad she's dead if you're glad she's dead, because it's over.
Right.
So why are you continuing to live in the rage of that nightmare when it's over? Oh, didn't expect that. But that was nothing but the truth right there. That was a humble truth, actually. Actually, it was, because being justified that somebody abused you so bad. Man, I get that. I really do. And I get the grief in that, and the sorrow and the brokenness and the disenchantment and the PTSD of that. I really do. But you can't stay in there. You can't live there.
Kids can't stay there.
It's not worth it, is it?
No, it's
Charles?
not.
It's not worth it. It's not worth it.
It drains the life out of you. And
There
then when
it
you look
is.
back, you say, wow, I spent a lot of time. I wasted a lot of time being
resenting. And I want to give you some more hope. We only got a minute left. I want to give you some more hope. I want you to first understand this. You can come out of this. I don't care how bad you feel. You can come out of this. What do I do first? Acknowledge.
Right.
You cannot fix a problem you don't acknowledge.
Don't acknowledge, correct.
Just start with a baby step. What's that baby step, Dr. Z? That baby step, I feel horrible and it sucks. Okay, there it is. I just told the truth. How you doing? Fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. Oh, that's cool. Stop. Go ahead and don't be afraid. Pain ain't killed you yet. So don't be afraid of tears. Don't be afraid. Don't be too afraid to honor your body that's telling you is tied up in grief, and it's tied up in disappointment, and it's tied up in self-pity. The truth is your friend. The truth is your friend. Do you know what the name of this show is? The name of this show is It's About the Truth. Now, I gave a big announcement yesterday, co-host, that the show is going to Power Praise Television Network. I want to give a shout out to Mr. Kevin Nash, who's supported us down through the years. Oh man, Kevin is just the bishop. Okay, he's the prelate. He's the archbishop, but he's also such a man of God. He would not try to encumber growth, and he gave us this platform to grow in. And it's been awesome. This is the best radio station I know of. And I want to tell anybody who's considering being on the radio, I want you to call Mr. Kevin Nash, call the number, leave a message, and tell him you want your show on Accelerated. Okay? Because I'm telling you, it's affordable, and it's convenient, and it's state of the art. That's what I got to say about it. And I know because I got a whole track record of that. Now it's time to move forward. We're going to the Power of Praise television network, and I wanted to be sure to announce it, keep announcing it, because through the month of May, the last program is going to be May 29th. Radio program.
Yes.
And then we go to TV. I hope we said something that was helpful to you.
Today, yeah.
Yeah, happy Mother's Day to you. Be encouraged, warrior. We got your back. You might have to cry off of some stuff I said, but get it out. Let it out. And then go get yourself a hamburger. I'm going to have a hamburger today. That's what I want. Okay, this is Dr. Z, Evangelist Charles Williams. We'll see you later.